Hey, welcome back to the Vault Redux Part 2.
Yeah, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Let's go.
and obviously, as you know, guys, this episode is Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
Obviously. Come on. So, yeah, Part 2 of the Pilot Redux.
Yeah, excited to do it again. Very excited to do it.
Good films.
Yeah, good
classics.
Films. And it really deserved our attention in a proper way, in our proper format.
Yeah. That's why we're doing it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Bit of justice.
And we've always got time to talk about Ghostbusters, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like Jurassic Park's your favourite film, Ghostbusters is my favourite film, and it always has been from a young age.
Yeah, because it's iconic.
I just love it. I just don't get bored of watching it.
I think as well, Ghostbusters it's one of those sort of films that we literally made this pod for in its initial conception.
Yeah.
Not least because it was the first film that you mentioned. You was like, I want to do a pod on Ghostbusters, but also it is the archetypal cult film.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's got there's generations to it now of fans who can't possibly have seen it when it came out.
It is
just followed
like
on
a
to
Jurassic Park.
Like Jurassic Park. So yeah, let's do Ghostbusters.
Let's. Right, box office.
Right, yeah, we'll jump straight into it. So it was released on the 8th of June 1984.
Bang in the middle of summer.
Yes, lovely, brilliant summer film. Columbia Pictures did it. So nowadays Sony. It's owned by Sony. So run by Sony. It's basically one of the only things that Sony's got going for it, really.
It is,
except time sharing a bit of Spider-Man. Do you know what I mean? That's
it's on its arse.
It's on its arse.
Yeah, Sony Pictures is on its arse.
But then again, a lot of studios are on their arse.
True.
Again, as you know from our pod, State of Cinema, a lot of them are in difficulty. Yeah. Real difficulty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was produced by them. It's 105 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes if you prefer it in analogue.
Pounds and ounces.
Pounds and ounces.
Imperial.
Yeah. What's that in Church of England? Right. Hour and 45 minutes.
How many shillings is that?
Yeah.
Again, I think it. Again, like Jurassic Park, it doesn't sag. It uses its runtime efficiently.
Yeah, and I do think it's for the type of film it is. It's exactly the right sort of length.
Yeah,
is that? Do you know what I mean?
We all know you like a bit of length.
I'd get a bit of length, and not too much girth.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Is that your preference?
Yeah. We just we're talking about something else now.
Right, so directed by Ivan Reitman, directed Twins, Kindergarten Cop, and I've got a little soft spot for this film, Evolution.
I've got a big soft spot for that film.
We've had conversations about this.
I love that film.
Yeah.
Comedic director.
Oh, best line.
I think we've established that kaka and tuki don't work. So it's such a funny film.
It's a silly film, but I think that is underrated.
I think it's massively underrated.
I think it's underrated.
Massively. Do you know what I mean? We haven't got one plan, but can we back pocket that for maybe a future way down the line?
Maybe, yeah. I think it would justify
we'll back pocket at Farrah for that one. Do you know what I mean?
Top pocket twins. Right, he produced it as well. The story was created by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. God rest his soul.
Yeah. Also in it.
Yeah. Both were in it as well. Cinematography was by a gentleman called Laszlo Kovacs, who did the cinematography for films such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Miss Congeniality. So. I write like Miss Congeniality. It's not your type of film. I don't want to see it.
But camp classic. Absolutely love Miss Congeniality.
That's why I put it on. I was like, I've got to mention that.
I love Miss Congeniality. Funny film. Funny.
Is it?
Funny film.
Music was by Elmer Bernstein. He did and this guy's right is Film, yeah, tippy toppy, mate, tippy toppy. Again, I just picked off a few. Great Escape.
Oh,
I know.
Now that we are talking composers for a fucking film there, Great Escape.
And then his filmography as well is like really fucking wild and varied. He did the score for My Left Foot, the Daniel Day-Lewis thing, yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
And also Animal House.
Oh.
Which was the comedy that, National Lampoon before this.
Didn't think it.
Yeah, well.
Shush. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I only mentioned a few.
Yeah.
Right. Move straight onto the cast. Bill Murray plays Peter Venkman.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Charlie's Angels. Can't remember him being in that. He did the voice of Garfield.
He's got a
very, very varied filmography.
Scrooged.
Oh.
Scrooged. One of my favourite Christmas films.
It's in my top 3 Christmas films.
I think my favourite.
We've said that on the Christmas one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd plays Ray Stantz.
Yeah, and also wrote it
as well.
As you say, yeah.
Again, he's in Trading Places, Blues Brothers, and then you know what? I really like this film, and I think this don't get enough love. In his and John Candy's filmography, Great Outdoors.
I've only seen it once, but yeah, I know what you mean.
It's family, and the families get together and spend at a lake in a cabin. Funny.
It's I remember it. Enjoyable film. Enjoyable film.
Sigourney Weaver plays Dana Barrett, obviously. Sigourney. Ripley from the Alien films.
We'll speak about her properly, but I'm a big fan of Sigourney Weaver. Big fan.
I know, yeah, and I know why as well. You showed me that clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
Harold Ramis plays Egon Spengler. He was in Animal House. He was in a comedy called Caddyshack about golf. And then he was in Groundhog Day as well with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis, the great Rick Moranis. Again, he's we did a show on Air Front the Kids. Plays Louis Tuller, obviously from Spaceballs. Which is a really cool film.
It's a fun film in Spaceballs.
Annie Potts plays Janine Melnitz.
Love that character.
Oh, great! She's great in it.
Character.
And do you know what I didn't know? She's the voice of Bo Peep in Toy Story 1 and 2.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Fun fact.
Hey, that is a fun fact.
That is a fun fact, isn't it? When I seen that, I was like, oh, fucking hell, how kills that?
Yeah.
You're looking at it, you know, smart. You've not got it.
I got that. Fuck!
Yeah, I got a good fun fact there. That's cool, isn't it? William Atherton, we've seen him before in the Die Hard films.
Yeah.
Plays a cock in that. And he plays Walter Peck in this, and he's a cock. Dickless.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson plays Winston Zedmore.
Interesting. Got things to say about that.
He was obviously in the sequel, Ghostbusters 2. He was in The Crow as like the copper. And he was in Congo about the monkeys again. Yeah. Michael Crichton, you see links all over.
He's also in Miss Congeniality, by the way.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off. And then
David Chief.
Oh, nice.
Miss Congeniality.
He's popping up and shit. David Margolis plays Lenny the Mayor.
Yeah.
I thought I'd mention him.
Yeah, I like.
He's in a lot of American TV, Law and Order and stuff like that.
Shall I do the budget? The budget.
Oh, go for it.
We'll get it slightly skipped over. So it had a budget between 25 and 30 million.
All right.
Tricky to nail down. Was that
here or there?
Like, okay, what do we think of that in sort of, by 1984? Like, what do you think? Spenny, not Spenny? 6 and 2 threes, isn't it? Really?
Well, if you go off 60 million for Jurassic Park,
yeah, but 10 years later, nearly 9 years later,
So
chunky but not excessive.
Yeah,
chunky but not excessive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's the sort of mid-budget sort of thing, which we've discussed this at length on the pod. Anyone who has anything to do with movie criticism absolutely knows. What are we missing from the film market today? Mid-budget.
Just these middle films.
A middle-budget film. And I think they're a real loss at the moment.
It's
to the
40 million,
experience.
go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. You've got 30-40 million, have at you. See what you can do with that. Because you've not got enough money to not have a tight story. You can't rely on your effects too much. But we're not penny pinching either.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can still have something a bit impressive.
And to be fair, a lot of them like Amazon things and even Netflix, Netflix films cost like triple that.
No, exactly. So
And they're
there
shit.
we go. Yeah, watched a couple of them recently and get woof.
Bad, mate.
But what's interesting, right? The box office, it made 296 million.
It made money.
Made money.
Made money.
And back then, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, I'm willing to say that back then, that is in fact bare peas.
Again.
Do you know what I mean? In it.
Yeah.
Especially back then. Nowadays, tuppence ain't a dead frog, innit? Like, it's not note to write home about 296 million.
No, when some films, that's their budget.
It's like we talked about in Indiana Jones last week. The most recent Indiana Jones, that is more than what its budget is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, but back in 1984, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
really,
it was a very
for a
profitable
mid-budget.
film.
Like Columbia would have been looking at that and going, "Oh,
for a comedy film,
for a comedy, yeah." But interesting. As long-time listeners will know, I try to give you the domestic and the worldwide because I usually think that it's got a good spread to show you where something's popular. But
all over.
Yeah, all over. But this one, not so much. It's difficult. It's been difficult to find what the domestic and
but we've not the first time we've come across that with films around this time. Look at Die Hard. Die was another one where it was like, how much did it cost to make? No one knows.
No one knows.
No one knows.
So I'm afraid I've only got the full gross figure of 296 million
Still
worldwide.
decent.
It's a big hit. Everyone's going to be pleased with that.
Suits are up there.
Do you know what I mean? And the fascinating thing about Ghostbusters is that even without all of its sequels and its legacy and everything, this film itself still makes money nowadays. Do you know what I mean? Merch wise, do you know what I mean? Video sales, streams, downloads, everything. It's still a money maker. So
brand.
Do you know what I mean? That if we're talking about overall how much it's made, the billions and billions. Do you know what I mean?
Again, if you can put that iconic logo on anything, it'll sell.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? And it's just got so many iconic parts of it. I mean, like, who are you going to call?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
The marketing strategy was genius.
Who are you going to call? Genius.
That ghost in the no sign.
Yeah, it's so good.
Brilliant,
so
brilliant.
Good.
But again, I think that's there's a lot of films that were made around this time that were bold and brave and again came up with branding that is still recognised today.
I think basically like the 80s and the early 90s, really, it's that sort of like golden age of this type of film, if you know what I mean, of this kind of middle budget, really clever, really interesting,
hit out of
really
nowhere.
an original story as well, which again so different from the film landscape of today. Miles different. So that's its financials overall. So shall we have fun with some facts?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So Dan Aykroyd initially conceived it as a vehicle for himself, because he always planned for himself to be in it as well, and John Belushi.
Well, he was writing it when he died.
He was writing it when he died. Passed away in 1982.
Late 83, early 84, maybe possibly. I can't remember.
His original story had the group fighting ghosts, obviously, but more through time and space.
So the original story was that it was supposed to be them two and Eddie Murphy, and the ghostbusting was a job that you did in the future.
Yeah,
and it was like them following them around, and they're like on their normal everyday. That's their normal everyday job.
Yeah,
and obviously he died. They retooled it to have more of a failed scientists in modern day. That the budget, the budget would have been triple that.
Yeah, because that linking in Ivan Reitman, he realistically he was the best choice of director that they could have gone with because
he knew from
of his
Animal House
you know what I mean, comedic chops
yeah,
with his
exactly.
directing.
Saturday Night Live, they're all from Saturday Night Live in the
it's
70s.
very much part of that world. And Ivan Reitman, he liked the idea, but thought with the travelling through space and time, it costs far too much money.
Yeah.
He was like, no studio is gonna
3 times that.
He's gonna
and they wouldn't. They would never make it back then. Never.
So after John Belushi's passing, he suggested to Aykroyd to work with Howard Ramis.
Yeah, Harold Ramis.
He suggested and to set it on Earth, set it on more on Earth and ground it in the modern day. The then 1980s, early 1980s. And he suggested that would be more relatable and it would make it funnier for people, which I can definitely see, because there's real themes with that of contemporary things to the early 1980s. Do you know what I mean? It's very much a film steeped and marinated in the time that it came out. And the culture and the science and the
private
politics
industry,
the politics of the time. But they got Columbia to finance it. 30 million was given as long as it was ready by June 1984, which was literally a year from then.
Get going.
Go. Fine, make it.
The train's leaving the station.
Yeah, make it, but it's to be ready in a year. A year's production schedule is good. That's quick for a film. It.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of stuff now, films they try to be as efficient as possible, like 3-4 months. Really.
No, but everything to be ready, the film ready to go.
Oh
in 1 year.
Yeah, normally because then you're getting pre-productions normally
from the beginning
12
to
months.
Be like, let's cast everything. To
you've got to start making models like.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's an absurd schedule, really. But from beginning to end, we're not just talking. It's
principal
photography. Do you know what I mean? So, yes, as you've already alluded to, Eddie Murphy was originally approached to play Winston.
Yeah.
Now, this, again, we'll get into it.
I don't think he'd been in a film by this point.
I don't think he'd been in a film.
I don't think he was in... Beverly Hills Cop was his first film. Maybe the same year. I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know off the top of my head. But
it could be 1984. 85.
But I think it's...
Get in touch.
Yes, let us know when we're Beverly Hills Cop. I think it's to the benefit of the film that he's not in it. Eddie Murphy.
The problem is that from the initial script with Eddie Murphy being one of the main characters, they did cut that part Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman did go. It was cut back, and it's famous. It's a well-known story. You know what I mean? Even he's come out, Ernie Hudson, and said they just kept cutting it as he kept script revisions. My part was like less and less. He doesn't come into it until like 45 minutes.
40 minutes in.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, also John Candy was supposed to play Lewis.
Yes.
John Candy was supposed to play Lewis. But he left, and for the vague reason of creative differences.
That's not the first story I've heard with him and shit like that, though.
No.
I think he was a very particular guy.
He must have been very particular, because
his son is like a story around Home Alone.
Home Alone, yeah. I was just about to say he had a bit of a falling out. Well, not a falling out,
with
Chris Columbus over
and John Hughes. And he's done that Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Is John Hughes?
Yeah. So, yes, So they just left it vague. They've always just said creative differences. He just left.
Classic.
He just left. I reckon.
Classic.
I reckon. I'm talking cold hard. I'm making things up.
Cold hard rumour.
Cold hard rumour here that I'm starting now. Basically, I think he just wanted Lewis to be a bigger part than it was.
Not like he's not in it, mate.
No, I know it's not like he's not in it, but I think he wanted it to be a more substantial part than it was.
He can't. It's what's on the page, isn't it?
Well, it is what's on the page.
Don't want to do it.
Yeah, and that's where he spazzed on me out over it. And
he might have said, "Yeah, we'll do it." Then gone. Can we just add this?
Can we add this and like
just
no,
say
it's
them
written,
words. It's just do that.
Yeah, it's written.
We've
there,
seen that before,
John. And he's gone.
John.
Yeah, and he's gone now. Although you know what I mean. Sadly, past is John Candy now. Like
classic.
But, yeah. This I thought was interesting. Sigourney Weaver, even though she was relatively a big star, film star
in her mid-30s as well.
Do you know what I mean? But she still had to audition. Fit, yeah.
Fit, mate.
She is fit.
Sigourney Weaver.
A beautiful lady.
Yeah,
beautiful lady.
Unconventionally fit.
Unconventional.
Do you know what I mean by that? She's not like.
No, I know, but she seems. I think it's just she's so in control of herself, and so she comes across assured. She knows what she wants.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She knows what she wants.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Looks after herself, classy bird as well. Do you know what I mean?
Still looks decent.
Do you know what I mean? Big fan of Sigourney.
Yeah.
But she had to audition, and apparently she didn't know. She had to do an impression of the terror dog. And they gave her the part
when she's like fucking flailing.
Yeah. Flailing.
I don't know if that
vamping. Vamping.
Oh, hello. Yeah. Hello. I don't know what that is.
When
what I'm
she's
doing.
On the altar.
Yeah.
Vamping on the altar.
She's like that.
Yeah.
Give me the bean. You can't wait till we get on YouTube when we start doing
Give
the videos. You'll see what I'm doing.
Give me beans. Boss Films was brought on to do the visual effects. It was their first film. Founded by Richard Edlund. From ILM. He'd worked on Star Wars.
Yeah, he did. Really creative
ILM.
guy.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Actually, right. So, Boss Films, right? I'm pretty sure I wrote it down. Like I've wrote them. This kind of. I did actually.
They were doing a film.
So Boss Films, mate. Boss Films, right? Worked on Die Hard.
Yeah.
Poltergeist 2. Big Trouble in Little China. I know.
I love Big Trouble in Little China. Ridiculous film, but
but the special effects they've actually, and I've got this. It's called. I think anyway. Night on the Town or Busting the Town. There's a documentary about the special effects team about Boss Films making this. It's really really good. It's a documentary. It's really good. Quite obscure, but I've got it. It's really good, Mark. Yeah. How they created Slimer, how they created all the visual effects.
Slimer, that's my other fun fact. Wasn't originally called Slimer.
No,
Onion Head Ghost.
Yeah.
Onion Head Ghost. And they never call it Slimer.
No.
Never call it Slimer.
No, do you know why it's got that nickname? Because Slimer. Slimy, innit?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, don't get that name until later installments of the thing. Just called it the Onion Head Ghost. And it's voiced by Ivan Reitman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, and he did Zool thing
in the fridge.
In the fridge.
Zool's in the fridge.
Zool's in the fridge.
I wrote that down. I thought Zool's in fridge.
Zool's in fridge.
Who's in fridge? Zool.
Zool.
Get me some food out of fridge.
Zool.
Zool's in there.
Zool, motherfucker. Zool. But yeah.
Who's Zool and who's Gozer? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's what we'll fucking find out, innit? Right.
So the synopsis.
So the synopsis, yes, synopsis.
So literally, the synopsis to this film is, and this is as brief as it's going to get, 3 eccentric parapsychologists start a ghost catching business in New York City.
Yeah. There you go. On the tin.
That's it.
There we go.
Give them a call.
Yeah. Who are you going to call?
Them?
Ghostbusters. And because busting makes them feel good.
It does.
Do you know what I mean?
How good does it make them feel?
Yeah. So good. Right.
Come on then. Mate. Right, so let's, for a kick-off, that pre-credit scene.
Yeah.
Bang. He does everything in that pre-credit scene.
Yeah.
It sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're going to get.
Yeah, 100%.
But I know this might be sounding unusual, but I'm going to juxtaposition this, right, with the real gripe I've got about this film.
Oh, you have a gripe?
Yeah, I do.
Ooh.
Right. So all the way through this film, so you've got the bad guy who's in the apartment, right?
Yeah.
So there's no real reason, right, given for why all the ghosts are appearing and all this shit's happening all of a sudden.
None.
It's got them. They're going, oh, we're gonna make a So actually, I think I'm gonna get a bit deep here. What if I was to remake it now? I mean, they've gone too far now to do that, but even let's ignore the female one, because that's a totally different thing.
Don't hate it, by the way.
No, I don't. We've said this. No, there's no hate here, and it's all right.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Perfectly accessible. Like it's a six of a film. It's a six.
It is a six. It's all right. It's all right. For me, what they should have done is I'm mentioning this because the pre-credit sequence is so good, and I mean the film is so good anyway. But what they could have done is, while these guys are figuring out what they want to do in terms of continuing with their investigations into ghosts and stuff like that, you know, we should have given them a reason to set up as Ghostbusters, i.e., to bring the bad guy into it a lot earlier into the film, and then build that from there in terms of the bad guy. It gives the Ghostbusters a reason to become Ghostbusters, to save the city. Whereas here, we're going to start busting ghosts, then become famous. Then, there's this big thing that's about to happen. Do you know what I mean by that?
I get what you mean.
And the baddie goals are shit baddie.
Well, it barely features
3 minutes. She's in it for about 3 minutes.
It's
aim for the flat top. Great line.
It's a bit of 6 and 2 threes with me. It's a really good villain, as in how it looks. Shit me up when I first watched it. Shit me
androgynous.
Androgyny, that's exactly what it is. Like, you don't really know whether they're male or female. Skewing a bit female.
It is a female. It is a
female. But it's the glowing red eyes. You god. Like, die. Yeah.
Another great line.
Another great line later. If someone asks you if you're a god, say yes.
Yeah, Winston.
Yeah.
Ray.
But yeah, I see what you mean. I didn't really think about that, but good point. There is no real setup to it.
Yeah,
however, I would say with this film, sort of like the point of it is that there's no real setup, because all of these characters, and this is by no means an original take off me. I've seen various other people saying this. What you always usually what you want with a screenplay and of a character is that they have an arc.
Yeah.
I don't think, and again, before anyone writes in and saying you didn't think of that, I've also read and heard this. None of these characters have what you would think to be a traditional arc.
None of them.
They do. None of them. Nobody. Because all of these, Venkman, all of them, begin the story and end the story in fundamentally the same place that they right at the beginning believe in ghosts. Right at the beginning know that they want to set up a business. They know that ghosts exist. They at that point had never seen one right at the beginning. But they quickly get that out of the way because they find one in the library. Straight away.
Yeah, the ghost that's in the pre-credits.
They're already working on it. They already have a mode of figuring it out. They're already figuring out how to bust it. So what would be in a traditional story, the more of a midpoint of the film, if you think about it, that would be more of a midpoint.
Well, the containment unit.
We've met the ghosts. We've figured out a mode of capturing them.
Yeah.
That would be more of a midpoint of the film.
Yeah.
In this, it's pretty much right from the off.
Yeah.
They both believe
first
in them.
20 minutes.
They know what they do.
That's the first 20 minutes. They've set up a business in the first 20 minutes.
So what is normally what would be the character arc isn't there.
No,
the characters are fully formed.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting, especially for this kind of film where normally it would rely quite heavily on a character arc. This kind of genre film, for lack of a better word, would heavily rely on a kind of genre film, and I think it's testament to the writing and how the characters are portrayed that it doesn't suffer from a lack of character arc. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. And I think following on from that, I think because they were so used to being in front of a camera and the quick one-liners and the quippy dialogue and the 100%. And the script is this. It's this side of silly.
It's just this side of silly.
It is.
So often I find myself when I watch Ghostbusters, and I've this is another film that I've watched like plenty, and get even more since I've met you. In the wrong hands, this film could easily be so absurd as to be totally unwatchable. But it's in the right hands. Do you see what I mean?
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
Those lines could be so silly, but they're delivered with such a sincere wit and such a sincere cleverness.
Because in the direction, there's nothing elaborate or flashy.
No,
at
absolutely
all in this film.
Nothing. I've put on my thing. It is genuinely well written. It manages in its themes and its dialogue to be both weighty and breezy at the same time.
And you forget like how much information you get in all the time.
Oh, mate, this is info dump. Info dump.
And a lot of like they're talking about like.
Yeah.
You know, it's as if you're just in their conversation and you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? And it's just that's just normal to them.
And once again, it sort of skews away from a traditional piece of storytelling because like those pieces of info dumps, those pieces of dialogue where they're talking and explaining what's going on could again in the wrong hands be so poorly done, and the exposition could be so poorly done.
Do you know why that is?
Because there is a lot of it where, you know how I yell about show me, don't tell me.
Yeah.
A lot of this does rely on telling me. It does. But I don't think it hurts the film in this instance.
It doesn't, and I think that replaces the setup for the villain throughout, as the villain storyline should build as the film goes on for the climax.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It doesn't. There's none of that.
Because the villain...
It's all from there. It's all...
The villain, while I think is thematically central to the theme of the film, but it's not structurally central to the actual story that they're telling. It's almost tangential to the story that they're telling. The story that they're telling is more to do with like set it. If you think of the bare bones of the story, it's setting up a business. It's dealing with the bureaucracy of the day. It's do you know what I mean? Life, dating a little bit with the Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver in it. You know what I mean? Relationships, friendships. You know what I mean? And then there is the wider theme, and that's where the ghost busting part of it more comes in. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But I've put sort of similar to you. But I've sort of looked here the other way. It doesn't waste time on extraneous backstory.
Well paced.
Well paced. It doesn't waste no time at all. And I think that's fascinating because once again, this film in just the wrong hands could have quite easily just turned to, oh, and then ghosts appear when this happens and that happens.
Yeah.
And then we're just into fucking lore dumps about, like, oh, that's what that kind of ghost is, and that's what that kind of ghost is, and you do this to bust that ghost, and then all of a sudden we're not doing a film, we're playing Ghostbusters Pokemon. Then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How it could have so easily been that if a less skilled group of writers and a less skilled director.
Again, goes back to that. It's just this side of silly.
Just this side of silly. I agree. But one thing I really like about this film, it's sort of conflating the roles of an exorciser and exorcising ghosts, traditionally played by a much more portentous religious figure.
Yeah.
And the role of the very modern, very necessary role of an exterminator.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I love that juxtaposition. It's a really
The exterminators, yeah.
It's a really clever way of doing it if you think about it. And it all links into the themes that have got modern society versus old-fashioned superstition. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't ever creep into the realm of religion or anything like that. You know, I think it's a smart move to stay away from.
Well, I've actually put that in terms of its broader themes, and it might even be subtext and not even intentional subtext. But there is the subtext of science versus the supernatural, of science of the modern world conquering old-fashioned superstition, of conquering and defeating old-fashioned.
Well, yeah, and I think
Old Testament religion.
Yeah, and I think it shows that in that very famous montage sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Where everyone's talking about ghosts and they're going, "I've got a ghost," and all of a sudden people accept that, right? So, what is a ghost then, and where's it come from, and why am I seeing loads of them all of a sudden?
Yeah,
it just goes. There's ghosts, mate, and we've got to go and get them. But you're like, oh yeah, all right then.
I really like the theme of science versus religion in it, because if you think of the fight with Gozer, they're using a lot actually of Christian symbology in that scene. What's Gozer's attack of choice? What did he use?
The lightning
bolts. Lightning bolts. Like literally.
Well, you're right, because he's like fire and brimstone
and he's literally after the 2-second scene where
that's it.
You know what I mean? And they disappear up into the clouds.
Why did she just use enough power to push him right off the edge?
Why didn't she just kill him there and then?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But because she doesn't, because it's a test, isn't it? It's a test.
It's a test.
It's a test. But literally, they subsume themselves into the clouds. An almighty presence in the clouds. What does that remind you of? The Judeo-Christian God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the Savior.
Like the almighty Lord in the sky. Yeah. Like Gozer, although they are a Sumerian, well, in actual fact, a fictional god, but like.
Ain't Conan a Sumerian?
I don't know. No, he's a barbarian, isn't he? But
yeah.
But it's very much, it's using Christian symbology, but then it's just for ordinary guys, right, with accessible tools that they've invented conquering God and supernatural power being overcome by just the ingenuity of normal, ordinary people. And it's a big theme in this film.
It is.
And I think it's a really good theme, really well executed.
Excellently executed.
Yeah.
Well, touching upon your point of the actual characters, the main characters all ace. You got obviously Peter, slacker, bit of a dick.
There is one criticism of him.
Chauvinistic.
Yeah, it's more of a guy, and we come across this a lot. This film was made in 1984, and it has the potential to be a bit. It's a bit creepy, especially with him being a professor, and he's clearly putting the moves on what is one of his.
And he just she's like, leave me out, and he's like, oh, when he goes round to her apartment, to check the eggs out and Zool in the fridge.
It's a bit creepy nowadays.
It's not. This is what
it's not there. It's not there. But however, I think it's covered over by Bill Murray's performance of it, but B, it just being a well written character that is both flawed, but
do you know what it gets away with? Because you know when he goes to meet her when she's finished the concert, and she's softening up to him.
She is.
As she's walking towards him, she's smiling at him. I noticed that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right. Well,
she thinks he's a bit of a knob.
Yeah.
But
there's
something there. She does like him.
Yeah. And I think that kind of makes up for a bit creepy. You're right.
A bit creepy.
She's asking you to leave and you're not leaving.
Yeah, no. She's literally saying, go away now.
Yeah. She's actually shutting the door on him.
Yeah, she's actually literally going, get out of the house. Like,
But that, when she walks towards him and she's smiling at him, I thought, okay.
It is intentional. You can't criticize it too much if it's literally the intention. If you, the audience, are supposed to be looking at it going, that's a bit creepy. And I feel like even in 1984, the point of it was, don't act like that. That's creepy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a bit. He's
using his job to meet girls. Well, look at the scene when he's fucking the ESP with a girl, and he's shocking the guy just for shocking him when he gets it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ray. Moving on to Ray. He's like the excited kid.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm.
Yeah. Played brilliantly by
all of them are.
Yeah.
Egon's like the weird science kid.
Yeah.
He collects molds and spores, for fuck's sake.
And he's always eating.
Always
eating.
Yeah.
He's always
he likes
got
Chinese.
He's always got a snack in his gob the entire time. Nearly always, when he's not doing some Ghostbusters thing.
It sets that up where he's like, when he's like, he's teasing him at the beginning. And after they come out of the library, and he's like, "Oh, you've earned it." Yeah, so he's he's obviously got a sweet tooth.
He just likes eating. Do you know what I mean? Because he's eating like what they call them little cakes, American.
Oh, the Twinkies, yeah.
They're actually horrible. Then
they're not nice. That's shit.
If we ever have any American listeners, we do have American listeners. Get a grip. Like I don't know
them
why
Twinkies.
Get a fucking
Hostess
grip.
Twinkies,
what
not
is it?
for
What
us.
is it? Just have a chocolate eclair. Do you know what I mean?
Have some proper cream.
Do you know what I mean?
Twinkies can't they last like decades as well? What is it in them?
Oh, I don't know.
Tell them about the Twinkie. That's what I want to know.
I know. Weird.
And then obviously Winston. He's us. He's the everyday guy. He's the audience.
He is the everyman.
He's what the fuck's going on here?
He literally says when I really love the scene where Janine what's her face Janine, where
do you believe in this and believe in that?
Do you believe in this and do you believe in that and do you believe in the supernatural or have you ever encountered a ghost and he was like, if there's a steady paycheck, I'll believe in anything you want.
Yeah.
And he's literally he's almost saying to the audience like, I'd whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want. Like I watch one job.
It is what it is, mate.
Do you know what I mean?
But again, it's a film full of great performance. It's a film full of great lines, left, right, and centre. It's throwing great lines at you all the time. Again, because of the experience he had with Saturday Night Live, I think that he was on set.
I think
a lot of takes of different stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, but like a lot of it has to have been improvised. A lot of it.
Yeah,
and if not, improvised, certainly like heavily collaborated on between the four of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can see that, and I think there is, on the home video releases, these deleted scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about scenes. Again, it's very much like Jurassic Park, where they're not that it's not as exciting in terms of escalation for set pieces, but there is great scenes. The parapsychology test at the beginning, where he's just trying to get that girl's number. The montage where it shows them becoming famous and well known and more, Even Larry King, they're on Time magazine and stuff. Slimer, obviously, that whole sequence in the hotel. The containment unit shut down, where it all goes to shit from there. And the whole Keymaster Gatekeeper meeting, where she's lay on a thing and she's like, "Are you the key? Are you the gatekeeper?" And then they walk up the stairs. The mayor's office is a good scene.
Really great scene. Dickless. Do you know what I mean?
Obviously the little pre-tension of the road all crumbling when they get to the apartment building. Obviously, Stay Puft Marshmallow, iconic.
Everyone remembers the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Do you know, for years when I were a little kid, I thought the Michelin Man was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
It looks like his cousin.
Clearly closely related. For years and years and years when I were a kid, I was like, what have the Ghostbusters got to do with that tyre shop? Different
marshmallow,
thing altogether.
That's tires.
Yeah.
And high-class restaurants.
Weird. That's a story in and of itself.
It is. But then obviously the final 20 minutes, mate. That whole sequence,
Yeah.
20 minutes.
From when they go up a lot of the film's runtime, really.
It is.
Yeah, enormous amount.
And do you know why? There's 10 minutes of them fighting and winning, and then there's another 10 minutes of them going, "My girlfriend's a dog." That's really I wouldn't say it's an odd way to end a film, because you should go, bang, there's your end, especially in a film like this. They've saved the day, the next day coming down, and then...
Well, it is an odd way to end a film.
Do you not think? It's crazy, that, isn't it?
But I also think
it kind of like really slows the pace, slows them last 10 minutes, really slows
everything
it
about
down.
this film's odd, really, if you think about it.
In the best possible way, to be fair.
It's an odd thing of a film.
Unique. But again, it's a film of its time.
Yes, yeah. It's just you're right, it is an odd way to end a film, but it's totally in keeping with how generally subversive for usual norms.
It's not unusual in what I've seen in the previous an hour and a half.
And now, exactly, like, I'm not surprised that anything strange happens in this film, because it
almost it dials it right down.
There's something strange in the neighbourhood of everything. Like, do you know what I mean?
Facts. But again, what a song!
Oh, I've literally put at the top of it, Ghostbusters. Oh my god, that theme song!
Wow, you have actually.
I know, that fucking theme song. It's an iconic piece.
I've got it on 7-inch vinyl.
Iconic.
Got the single 7-inch vinyl.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is cool.
But everyone knows
Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah, everybody knows that song.
That.
Even if you've never seen the film,
that's what I mean. It's as famous as the film.
It's as famous as the film. I would go so far as to say that song is probably the most iconic film theme song.
Ooh.
Literally, I would...
What about Time of Your Life, Dirty Dancing? That's got to be one of them.
It's got to be one of them, but I think
this is
this is up there.
This is better.
Yeah, and this has the benefit of it. Literally says the title of the film in the song.
Genius.
Do you know what I mean?
Fucking genius.
Do you know what I mean? Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Yeah. Oh well, I'm gonna have to go watch it now because I need to know what that song's about. Do you know what I mean? As well.
Oh, another fun fact. You know when it's the advert. Call us now. It was a real number that you could phone.
Yeah, I did read that. Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Yeah. That's a nice little touch.
Like really ahead of its time promotion.
Yeah, massively way ahead of its time.
Again,
I wonder how many people did that.
Loads, apparently.
Well, loads. I know.
Not only is the fucking soundtrack great, but Ecto won the car. Iconic.
You
can't not mention that. It is a hearse.
It's a hearse.
It is literally one of TV and film most famous vehicles.
I would agree. Well, like what else?
Like the DeLorean,
and the Batmobile.
Batmobile.
Yeah. I agree.
No, even if you're talking about vehicles in general, you know, it's just as iconic as the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone knows that. That's the Ghostbusters car. That. Everyone.
Yeah, everybody knows. Even knows if you haven't seen the film, you know about that.
Again,
and I just think this film that Ghostbusters is just such an incredibly clever film, such an incredibly well written film, such an incredibly well acted film that it sort of transcends even the time that it was. It's not just a iconic piece of cinema of the 80s. It's just an iconic piece of cinema.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It is. Excuse me, just is.
It should be on everyone's watch list. It should be on everyone's... Oh, maybe not in your list of favourite films, but again, I heard from someone, and I 100% agree with this. Loads of people love Ghostbusters, and if you don't love Ghostbusters, you more than likely really like it. If you don't really like it, you at least think it's alright. And if you don't think it's any good, you've probably long since come to the conclusion that while it's a very charming film, it's just not for you. I've never met anyone who hates Ghostbusters.
No, that's
Do you
true.
know what I mean? Even if you've watched it and you thought not for you, I think the film is so incredibly charming, at least.
Do you know why I think? Do you know why? Because I've always said when people say, and I think I've said to you, why it's my favourite film, because I think it gives you a bit of everything.
It does give you a bit of everything.
I genuinely believe that it gives.
Yeah.
You know, if it's trying to be about scary ghosts, you get the scary ghost. Yeah. If it's trying to be a comedy, get fired. Every other line's funny as fuck.
Yeah.
If you want a film with science in it, they talk a lot of jib. That's in the script. That's in the script. You know, you want not necessarily. Not the set pieces aren't very. There's not a lot of action in it. But when they fire in the things, it's exciting.
No, and I know exactly. It's both exciting and clever dialogue, and knows when to take a breath for a minute.
Yeah. It does.
Do you know what I mean? It's just incredibly well done. Can I just get one or two little criticisms?
Go on.
Out of the way. In the middle, in the act 2, it might lean a little bit heavy on montage, but it's a small criticism.
Yeah, it seems it's like we're going to explain a lot of shit in a super small. Yeah, they go from being.
I don't think it hurts the film.
They're on the arse.
It just might lean a little bit too much. It's like, oh, okay, I don't need another.
And that
montage.
Kicks off was the fucking amazing line. We got one. Janine.
One. Yeah.
Go on. What's your other one?
Yeah. The only other thing I didn't like, but it's not that I didn't like it. And it's only because of now that it now again comes across as a little weird that the petty B villain is an environmental regulator, right? And because if you strip away how much of a knobhead the character is, if you strip away how much of a knobhead the character is, actually all he's saying is perfectly reasonable things like you can't have a nuclear reactor in your fucking...
Again, another theme of the time.
But it's very much the theme of its time of You know what I mean?
Environmental issues.
The bureaucratic Goliath stamping on the small business owning David. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very much of its time, and it just. I'm not going to say it doesn't work, but it doesn't hit the same now.
You know, private industry.
30,
that's
it doesn't hit. It doesn't hit the same way.
No, but again,
it would have been absolutely grease to the mill of 1984. You know what I mean? Reagan's in power. He's sweeping away all of these
rules and regulations.
Do you know what I mean? Going through the same thing over here in Britain. Mrs. Thatcher sweeping away the old industries. Do you know what I mean? Old bureaucratic ways of doing them. So we'll sweep them away. Get the little businesses thriving. But I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just simply saying it hits different now, and it's a little bit like, no, but you should be a little concerned about those things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's not a criticism of the film. It's just something that I notice now.
Yeah, but totally fair. I see it.
The thing that I do want to say is that it still works because the guy playing it, Walter Peck.
Yeah.
What a prick. He is a prick. He's ridiculous.
100%. He just plays that character.
He is, and he's great at playing that character. He's great. He plays it in Die Hard, plays it in this. He's a prick, and he plays it so well.
Prick's a prick.
Do you know what I mean? So go on then.
No, I mean, again, let's talk briefly about its impact.
100%.
Obviously, it had a sequel in the late 80s, Ghostbusters 2. Now, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan, you know.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I don't mind it. It's just it's not my go-to. I'm not in any rush to watch Ghostbusters 2.
I never watch it, if I'm honest. I've watched it a few times in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I never watch it. I couldn't now talk to you or anything about like what happens.
It's about a man that comes out of a painting in pink goat.
Yeah, it's a bit shit. Vigo. Yeah. It's not great.
No. But the female reboot.
I don't mind it.
Semi-sequel, semi-reboot.
Semi-reboot.
Yeah.
Mid-boot.
Mid-boot.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know what it is.
Is that your arch or the heel?
Yeah, it's both. And also nothing. It's a difficult one, that. I don't
like we're saying, I don't hate it.
It could have been so much better because... But... They didn't let the actresses do what the actors, the lads, did in this. They weren't given the room in the script to bounce off each other in the same way, and they should have been able to, because they're a group of funny women, like they are a group of comedians. Like,
well, look what they did with a film like Bridesmaids, where
exactly,
it's
a bit let rip, and it's also almost uniformly the same group of girls. Do you know what I mean? At least two of them. So we know they can do it, and so it just says to me the studio didn't let them do it, and that's a shame, and it made it not quite.
I think they were a bit scared to go out full force with it.
They were a bit scared. But anyway, there have been more of them, and now I haven't seen them, so it's on you.
Yeah, so Ghostbusters Afterlife, which came out a few years ago, it's a continuation of the original two. You know, it's set in the same universe, and it's set so many years after. Involves Egon's family. Spoiler alert, Egon passes away, and his family inherit his house, and he's been... working on something for years.
That'd be his and Janine's kids, presumably.
No, they're not. No, but Janine's in it. Everyone's in it. Everyone makes a cameo in it. But no, I think it was some woman that he just got pregnant. I can't remember, if I'm honest, Mark. But I think he got a woman pregnant, but then he was a recluse at the time, and she never grew up with him. And do you know what I mean? And it is like the relationship's not great.
Do you think it's the fitting legacies? Because we talked about the Jurassic World.
It links into Gozer. It's the villain in it is like it's a Gozer related thing. It's the same Sumerian things, and he's been trying to suppress it.
Yeah.
In this fucking, it's like in a tomb thing now, where he purposely went to live near there. He said because that's where it originated from. It was summoned from originally. So it links back in terms of storyline and legacy.
I see.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a really good reintroduction to.
Yeah.
I was very interested at the end to see what was next. Right, you've got that one out of the way now, but let's go on an adventure now. What's next? And then Frozen Empire came out this year, and it's just it's not great.
No.
Like I said to you, for me, there's way too many characters in it. The hero of the story is like a side character, and it's got something to do with fire and ice and elemental thing. You know. It's just not great, Mark. It's Afterlife's enjoyable. It's not as good as Afterlife.
I see.
There's a whole subplot of like a ghost working for the main baddie in it, and she befriends the main girl, and that it's not great. Right. Again, not everyone's in it, and you learn more about like Winston. He's the kind of custodian of Ghostbusters as a thing, you know, and he's got a big, you know, he's made a lot of money and he's ploughed it all into these research centres where they can study ghosts and contain them better, and so that's like the actual Ghostbusters is like a viable business type thing again. And Walter Peck's in it.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
Well, he does the same thing. He's like, I'm going to shut you down.
Yeah, and you're like, shut up.
Yeah.
Still got no dip.
Yeah, Dipper still. Yeah. But no, Afterlife is... it has... A lot of people criticised it for its nostalgic parts, but I think that they were to its benefit and not to its detriment.
I think that... But I'm like, well, what would be the point making it if it wouldn't... Do you know what I mean? If you're not gonna be nostalgic about it, there's no point making that particular film.
You have to. You have to have callbacks, you have to.
In this particular franchise, what's the point making it? Do you know what I mean?
But it's Frozen Empire. It's not as good. Which is a shame, really. It's a shame, because Afterlife I was very interested to see the next story. Now I've seen the next story, I'm like... Again, do I want another one? Yeah and no. I do want it, but I don't really want it.
Yeah.
Try something. If you're going to do something, you have to be radically different, I think, now. I
will watch them, but
Afterlife's alright, you know. But again, a big brand like Jurassic Park, you stick that logo, and if that icon, that ghost symbol is as iconic as any other brand logo
100%.
On this planet. 100%. Again, games, merchandise, huge global brand.
Yeah, cartoons. When I was younger, the
real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah, good cartoons, by the way. Really good cartoons.
I was a big fan of real Ghost. I mean, I've always been a fan of Ghostbusters in general.
I remember watching them when I was a kid. Those and good cartoons as well. Yeah. And don't for a child audience, I'm always a big fan of a cartoon that don't talk down to kids. Yeah. As do you know what I mean? And so few things for kids actually achieve that.
All the good stuff does.
But the good stuff does, and the Ghostbusters is a good example of.
Yeah. Again, I think it captures the almost absurdity of it. Yeah. But in a way that's entertaining, just like the film.
I'd agree.
So
go on. Right.
Because I did JP first. You did Ghostbusters.
I think that it's an extraordinary film in how it's made, how it's put together, how it was written. Like we discussed earlier, it's so incredibly unique in its way. The screenplay is incredibly unique. The how it's put together the structure of it is incredibly unique. It's very well acted from everyone from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I can't think of
even Rick Moranis. It's a daft.
Do you know what I mean?
Character.
Yeah, it's a daft
perfect
character.
Guy to play it.
But if I were gonna say, is there a weak one? I suppose it'd be him. But even that, not really.
No,
not really. He might be the weakest one in a really good cast, but it's still a really good cast. You know what I mean? It's a small criticism, isn't it?
Good actor, Rick Moranis, though, as well. That's a compliment
really
to
good.
Him.
But it's one of those films where you could just play it on and you're bound to have a good time. You're just bound to have a good time. So with that, with that, I havered a while with an 8, but I think again, like Jurassic Park, I think it's a 9.
Yeah,
really.
fair.
I think it is, because it's just so incredibly iconic. It's so incredibly fun. It's so incredibly got really really interesting themes. If it because you can just watch it as just a light-hearted, fun little film, and you could just watch it and you could leave it alone, and that's great.
Yeah.
Or if you just peel away one layer, there's another deeper layer,
which is
and
why
then
we
there's
do
another
these
deeper
shows.
layer. You know what I mean? There's always a layer underneath, and that's what I think one of the things that makes a really great film, where you can watch it just at surface level, but if you want to go deeper, there's so much more deeper.
Rare these days.
There's much. This film goes much deeper even than what we've talked about now. There's deep things about friendship. There's deep things about politics. There's deep things about society. There's deep things about what makes hero work. Are they heroes or are they not? Or is it just their job? There's so much to talk about. So with that, I think it hits that trifecta of just a fantastic film. It's a 9.
I agree. I mean, I'd give it a 9. Again, I totally agree with the reasons that you just said. And just to add my little bit, for one, it's a film that, as I've said earlier, I think it gives you a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And you don't get films like that anymore. And it's such a special film for me in terms of, remember seeing it when I was young and falling in love with it, and that got me curious about film and cinema, and it has a lot of meaning, deeper down than it's just a really enjoyable film. Do you know what I mean? And it's like Jurassic Park for you. It actually means something to you.
Yeah, exactly. It takes you out. It's a bit like Jurassic Park for me, and this to a certain extent. It's one of those. It's a big part of your personal development and your personality and how you've become the person that you are today. So I think for that, it's always going to deserve its props and its flowers.
Agreed.
Yeah. So go on then. What's it? Did you meet me
9?
At a 9?
I said 9. Yeah, I'd definitely give it a 9, and it's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there we go.
Those are your 2 reduxes.
We've done them.
Do you know what I mean?
Redid them in a better way, and it's not 2.5 hours of us just rambling on.
No, it's 2 hours of us talking sense.
As usual.
Yeah, as usual.
So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for joining us on this pilot Redux with Jurassic Park and Ghostbusters. We are online, YouTube now. Mm-hmm. We can get us at the Vault of Cult on Instagram. Get in touch with us via email at the Vault of Cult. Not just the Vault of Cult at gmail.com. Search for us on YouTube, the Vault of Cult. Again, only audio at the minute, guys, but we are coming with the video wings.
Do you know what I mean? There's a lot to come.
There's a lot to come.
And we've got another series, another batch of 10 films.
Another batch of 10 films. Season 4's coming soon.
Yeah.
Imminently.
Yeah. Hurtling towards you as we speak.
So yeah, guys, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for listening as usual. And if you can give us a like, a subscribe. Give us comments on any platform. We're all the platforms. All interactions we really appreciate. So it's goodbye from me.
And me. See you later.